Hi guys, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you, depending on whatever time you're watching this. But above all, I'm very Merry Christmas to all of you and a very Happy New Year. Hope 2022 will be a year that will change your lives for better and you will realize whatever dreams you have for your career. Let 2022 be the year in which you move out of Allahabad and go to places, literally go to places, right? Okay, starting with today's session. In the previous session, we have done analysis for slot 1 VRC for CAT 2021. I'm sure the link for that analysis would be available on the channel, and the analysis itself is on the channel. So if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please do that. Please like this stream. All right. And we'll take up slot 2 for today. All right. Now, just before we start with the slot, compared to slot 1, I found slot 2 was slightly more intimidating. It was slightly more difficult to handle. And the theme that were explored in reading comprehension were a little uh, more obscure than what we got in slot 1. All right. So don't worry, your percentile will be tabulated, your percentile will be calculated based on the performance of the test takers in a particular slot. So you don't have to worry much there. The only thing is when your slot looks a little bit more difficult than the previous one, you kind of, start feeling nervous and you start losing your confidence. My advice is don't do that, right? In fact, I solved slot 1 and I solved slot 2, and I was pleasantly surprised to see that my score in slot 2 was better than my score in slot 1. Marginally, but yeah, that could mean a word of difference in terms of percentile. All right. So, very honestly speaking, I got 19 correct and 5 wrong in slot 1, and in this slot I got 21 correct and only 3 wrong. Okay. In fact, the entire VARC section, in the VA which was slightly more difficult than the VA in slot 1, I got all the answers correct. So I'm not sharing this with you to sound pompous, but just to let you know, when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. All right. So if you are confident about your preparation, if you are confident about your skill sets, do not worry. No matter what cat throws at you, you will come out with flying colors. At least that's what happened with me. All right. Okay. So here we have slot 2. As always, at the start, we have couple of reading comprehension passages along with questions. The first passage that you see here was, I think, the toughest passage in terms of understanding. Okay. And because it was right there at the inception, right there at the start of the session, it could be a bit unnerving too for most of the cat takers. So good strategy is always sort through, always sift through the entire section and look for yourself and decide where you want to start the session from. All right. So I'm quickly moving through the slides or moving through the passages and the questions. First passage was little difficult. The second passage on languages was a very easy read. Okay. Third passage was first one, yeah, nationality and the dichotomy that exists in our national identity. Then we had a passage on languages, and then we had a passage on a scandal of philosophy. Yeah, I quite like the wording of that phrase. Where is it? It's this, a scandal of philosophy. All right. So, though it sounded a bit out of what we normally read, the scandal of philosophy, people don't read philosophy. So, scandal in philosophy is totally out of our comfort zone. But when you start reading it, you will find that the passage itself was it was written in layman's terms, and there are the skeleton in closet kind of phrases which we otherwise know, we otherwise come across while reading in a general sense of way. And then there was another passage which was talking about equating truth and power and the nature of truth and the nature of power. Okay. And then you had what? You have your odd ones out and you had your parajumble. Okay. So, yes. This is the layout of the entire slot. Okay. And summary questions. Summary questions are always easy. summary question are always on the easier side, and they are very easily tackled. And if you know the idea of summary, you can, it's very difficult to go wrong with summaries. Let me put it like this. Okay, if you know what needs to be done in summary questions, you, it takes a special class of goofiness to get them wrong, right? So where should we start from? Should we start from VA? I think we should start from VA because there we will have a couple of questions that we can quickly finish off and then move on to the reading comprehensions. All right. So where are my, okay. The first VA question, there were 5 jumbled up sentences and you needed to find the odd one out. I have repeated it many a times. I'll do that today as well. When you have to solve the odd one out question, please, please, please do not just jump on finding the odd one out. You will never get it right. You might get it right in your practice sessions, you might get it right at home, but when we talk about CAT as an exam, which is a very smart, which is a very intelligent exam, and which wants you to follow the instructions to the T, if you just solve them for odd one out, you will get them wrong because the instructions categorically mentions that you first need to form a coherent paragraph. And when you have solved them for parajumbers, then you can find which one is not fitting in, right? Okay, so we have this spread in on 2 slides, this one question. Where do you think we should start from? So we will solve it for parajumble first. Okay, let's look at 5th sentence, which says one argument is that the drive for one argument for what, that is not being cleared, so I cannot start from this sentence. Okay, one argument is that, okay, I can't really start with this. To grapple with the ethics of enhancement, we need to confront questions that verge on theology, which is religion, which is why modern philosophers and political theorists tend to shrink from them. Now, if you read 4th, I cannot start with 5th because it says one argument, but one argument in favor or against what is not given, so it is not coherent. If I read 4th, it does not really tell me what the issue is being discussed. It just says ethics of enhancement. So are we talking about cosmetic enhancement? Are we talking about mental enhancement? Are we talking about spiritual enhancement, physical enhancement, performance enhancement? There are so many ways in which you can enhance stuff, right? Again, that is not made clear. Okay, 4th might very well be talking about, you know, the enhancement causing drugs that a sports person take to enhance their performance. Okay, but overall the para is not about that, so 4th is not a good start. All right, uh, can I start with first or should I start with second? Although most people find at least some forms of genetic engineering or breakthroughs in genetics. See, now if I compare second and third, second says although most people find at least some forms of genetic engineering disquieting, it is not easy to articulate why. Okay, genetic engineering is here used in a very specific sense of the word. Okay, this is being very specific, and the general was breakthrough in genetics. So whenever in doubt, it is always a good strategy to start from general because that's how you make up an argument. You start from general and then you move to the specific line. Okay, and therefore I'll prefer to start this sentence with I'll prefer to start this one with third. Breakthrough in genetics present us with the promise that we will soon be able to prevent a host of debilitating diseases and the predicament that our newfound genetic knowledge may enable us to enhance our genetic traits. Okay, so we spoke about that we are making a lot of progress in the field of genetics, and from that we narrowed it down to enhancement of genes. So genetics to breakthrough in genetics, moving on to enhancing the genetic traits, which is genetic engineering. Okay, so it says that genetics, the progress made in the field of genetics is good because we will be able to avoid a lot of diseases, but simultaneously it brings us to the predicament is an argument or a question or a debate that what if we start using our genetic knowledge to enhance our genetic traits. So basic question that we are going to discuss in this para is, should we at all enhance our genetic traits or should we accept what nature has endowed us with, what nature has given us? Should we be contained, should we be happy with it, or should we try to re-engineer ourselves and should we try to make ourselves better versions? Because then the problem starts, where do we stop? Okay, if we start tinkering with our genes, there's no limit. Then we one day we might have a clone which is a better version of ourselves. So then what do we do with our natural self? I'm going too much into it, but that's what the passage was asking us to do. Okay, so enhance our genetic traits. This predicament arises. First sentence. Second sentence would be, although most people find at least some forms of genetic engineering disquieting, it is not easy to articulate. Like, people are not happy. People say that there is something wrong with the concept of genetically engineering ourselves, but they are not able to articulate why it is wrong. What is wrong with re-engineering our nature? Okay, so this ends us with a question. If a sentence ends with a question, the next sentence will be the answer to that question, or the next sentence will be another question in continuation with the previous question. So question पे end होता है, तो please always remember next sentence another question or an answer to that particular question. यहाँ पे इन्होंने question पूछा, what is wrong with re-engineering our nature, and here comes the answer. One argument is that the drive for human perfection through genetics is objectionable, as it represents a bid for mastery that fails to appreciate the gifts of human powers and achievement. Like I said, if you want to improve yourself through genetics, you are not being happy with what nature and God has given you. Okay, so that is the answer. What is wrong? It is wrong that we are trying to overreach ourselves. Okay, and then the next sentence would be, to grapple with the ethics of enhancement, we need to confront questions that verge on theology. Okay, so if you want to talk about enhancement through genetic engineering or not, we have to look into theology, religion, and the philosophy of it, and therefore people do not want to tackle it. So this was your parajumble, and the odd one out would be this one: the care with which philosophers examine argument for and against forms of biotechnology. See, from genetic engineering, we from a very specific from a very generalized perception of breakthrough in genetics, we move to genetic engineering. So now we should have continued talking about genetic engineering, or maybe we could have gone more specific. But in this one sentence, we are becoming more, we are generalizing it further. We are saying for and against forms of biotechnology make this an excellent primer on formulating and assessing moral argument. The thrust of this particular sentence was on moral arguments. It was saying biotechnology ki base mein, etc. It was not just specifically talking about genetic engineering, and it was not questioning genetic engineering. It was talking about the moral angle to it. Okay, and therefore first would be your odd one out. This was the answer that you should have marked. This was the odd one out. Agreed. To start off with, this was a tough question. Okay, because a lot of reading was involved, a lot of connecting the dots were involved, and solving the parajumble was also not easy because all of them appear to be talking about the same thing. Okay, but it's okay that we got done with the tough question at the first go. Now we have an easy question. Okay, now let's look at this one. This is what? This is a parajumble, and we love parajumbles because they are so very solvable. Okay, so we are going to talk about US, we are going to talk about Canada, we are going to talk about something else. Let's see what they are talking about. The US and Canada have never legally settled the question of access through the passage. Through the passage? Now you must be wondering what passage, because that's what we do in parajumble. It says the passage. पक्का आप द पैसेज यूज किया है, तो somewhere in some other sentence they would have disclosed what passage they are talking about, and that sentence will come prior to this sentence. So what passage we are talking about? We are talking about the Northwest Passage. The Northwest Passage. So Northwest Passage, first and second वाला तो they are definitely coming before fourth. The dispute could be transitory. So ये भी हमारे starting नहीं होगा because we do not know what dispute. Okay. The dispute could be transitory, basically means the dispute is not going to hold for long. ये ज़्यादा दिन चलेगा नहीं. Again, which dispute we do not know. So third से भी हम नहीं start कर सकते. अब हमको start करना है या तो US से या तो हमको start करना चाहिए Canada से. Where do you think we should start from? Look at the opening up of Northwest Passage. Opening up as in जैसे वो reveal कर रहे हैं. So US has long maintained that the Northwest Passage is an international strait through which its commercial and military vessels have the right to pass without seeking Canada's permission. But why are we asking for Canada's permission? That is actually revealed in second. So let's start from second, which says Canada, which officially acquired the group of islands forming the Northwest Passage. देखो यहाँ पे इन्होंने proper definition दी है. The place that we are talking about. और क्लास में मैं हमेशा बताता हूँ that definition always comes before reference. So before you start calling it the passage, or even before you start calling it simply the Northwest Passage, you actually disclose what is Northwest Passage. It is a group of islands. Canada, which officially acquired the group of islands forming the Northwest Passage in Italy, claims sovereignty over all the shipping routes through the passage. So basically Canada ने ये acquire किया and this is that they are the sovereigns, they are the rulers of that place. वो सारा जो shipping area है वो उनको belong करता है. ठीक है, that makes sense. Canada ने ऐसा कहा तो उसके बाद आएंगे सॉरी उसके बाद हम कनाडा ने ये कहा. अब प्रॉब्लम किसको हुई? प्रॉब्लम हुई हमारे favorite US को. The US, Canada says that they have sovereignty over all the shipping routes. US has long maintained that the Northwest Passage is an international strait through which its commercial and military vessels have the right to pass without seeking Canada's permission. So you see dispute क्या है? Canada कहता है कि भाई यहाँ से जाओगे तो you have to ask our permission. US कहता है this belongs to international waters and nobody has a bloody right to claim sovereignty over it, and why should we ask Canada before passing through it. ठीक है, so एक conflict यहाँ पे आ गया. Okay, उसके बाद next आ जाएगा. तो US and Canada have never legally settled the question of access through the passage but have an agreement whereby the US need to seek Canada's consent for any transit. तो इनका मामला अभी सेटल नहीं हुआ है, but they are in an agreement where US do ask Canada permission before any transit. ठीक है, अब सोचोगे मैंने थर्ड को क्यों पहले रखा, फोर्थ को सॉरी थर्ड को बाद में क्यों रखा, फोर्थ को क्यों पहले रखा? क्योंकि जो डिस्प्यूट की बात थी, बट इन्होंने ये कहा दे हैव नेवर लीगली सेटल्ड, और फोर्थ इज गोइंग टू टेल यू दैट द डिस्प्यूट इज गोइंग टू कम टू एन एंड. ये ज़्यादा दिन चलेगा नहीं. तो वहाँ पे टोन चेंज हो जा रही है. हम थ्रू आउट बता रहे हैं डिस्प्यूट, और लास्ट में हम कह रहे हैं डिस्प्यूट इज नॉट गोइंग टू होल्ड फॉर लॉन्ग, सो विल कीप दैट एट द एंड. सो कनाडा से स्टार्ट हुए, यूएस में गए, यूएस का बताया यूएस एंड कनाडा आर नॉट ओके विद द status quo, but still they are in a state of agreement where they ask permission, where US asks Canada's permission. And then you say the dispute could be transitory. Okay? It is not going to be permanent. Because scientists speculate that the entire Arctic Ocean will soon be ice free and nobody has to ask for special permission to go through the passage. The entire area will be clean and you can go from wherever you want. So भाई बात वहाँ पे खत्म हो जाएगी. So the correct sequencing for this very easy parajumble was 2, 1, 4, 3. Alright. Questions are easy if you follow the basics, right? And if you have done your practice, questions are easy. Alright. But today we are not going to start from this. Again, we need to make a paragraph. So we cannot start from what today. Can we start from this calls for cultivation? No. What calls? Not clear. So we cannot start from first and third. Can we start from second? Let's see. We have another question. Half a century ago, development began as a hope for better human possibility. बट इन द लास्ट 50 years दिस होप हैज ओके. अब सी ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड. यहाँ पे डेवलपमेंट की तो बात की है, बट किस चीज़ के डेवलपमेंट की बात कर रहे हैं, किस कंट्री की बात कर रहे हैं, this none of that is clear. So a better start would be to start with second. We are at a crossroads now in our vision and practice of development. So everybody wants development. विकास सबको चाहिए, पर वो विकास क्या होगा और कैसे उसको इम्प्लीमेंट करें, इसके बीच में इसमें we are at a crossroads. मतलब crossroads कहने का मतलब होता है we have come to a point where we need to decide. ठीक है, what should be our development look like and how do we achieve it. तो अब वहाँ पे we have reached a position where we need to decide. ठीक है, तो अब आप सोचोगे why this sudden crossroads, why at this juncture we need to decide. So यहाँ पे थोड़ा सा आप उसकी बैकग्राउंड देंगे. Half a century ago, development began as a hope for better human possibility, but in the last 50 years, this hope has lost itself in the dreary desert of various kinds of hegemonic applications. ठीक है, so development हुआ था that society develop होना चाहिए, industrialization होना चाहिए, cities develop होना चाहिए, this will give us a better life, but all that has been lost in desert of various hegemonic applications. Hegemonic comes from the word hegemony. Hegemony basically means rule, one rule, okay? Somebody trying to prevail. So all that has been lost because everybody wants to rule over others, everybody wants to control others, okay? So that's the idea. तो इन्होंने कहा वी आर एट ए क्रॉस रोड का रेफरेंस यहाँ से है कि हाफ ए सेंचुरी अगो ये सीन था, बट टुडे, ओके, दैट्स व्हाई वी आर एट ए क्रॉस रोड. सो we are at a crossroad because half a century से हम ऐसा समझ रहे थे, but today there is an epochal challenge. Epochal is major, highly significant, important. But today there is an epochal challenge to rethink and reconstitute the vision and practice of development as a shared responsibility. तो पहले क्या था, डेवलपमेंट बड़ा सेंट्रलाइज था. उसका रूलिंग क्लास कहता था कि इस तरह डेवलपमेंट होना चाहिए, वैसे होना चाहिए. द पावरफुल यूज टू डिक्टेट द टर्म्स ऑफ डेवलपमेंट. बट टुडे development has become a shared responsibility which binds both the agent and the audience. सिर्फ गवर्नमेंट डेवलपमेंट की बात नहीं करेगी, जनता ऑल्सो गॉट ए से इन कैसा डेवलपमेंट होना चाहिए. So binds both the agent and the audience, developer and the developing in a bond of shared destiny. कि भाई everybody has to come together. It should be sustainable development. Crossroad इसलिए था, we started like that and now we are like on this spot. ठीक है. And obviously the last sentence would be, this calls for cultivation of an appropriate ethical model of being in our lives which enable us to realize this global and planetary situation of shared living and responsibility. So even if you don't understand these sentences, what they mean precisely and exactly, you can still solve the paradigms because the structure of the paragraph is so well defined. We are at a crossroad. This is how we started, but here we are now, and this is what needs to be done. Future. So you see, this is even following a chronology, right? So the correct answer to this one was 2413. Right. Let's see what we have next. Okay, again we have a paradigm. Okay. Look forward a few decades to an invention which can end the energy crisis. Okay, we can start from there, given, but should we? Let's see. To gain meaningful insights, gain meaningful insights into what? We cannot start from second for sure. Okay, the greatest of all invention. Okay, we can start from here. This invention we cannot start from second and fourth. हमारे पास दो ही ऑप्शन है. We need to start from either first or we need to start from third. Okay, the greatest of all invention is the Uber invention. Uber is ultimate. Okay, the greatest of all invention is the ultimate invention that has provided the insight on which others depend, the modern scientific method. Okay, this gives us a very good opening because it is introducing everything that we are going to discuss in this passage. It says सब इन्वेंशन से बड़ा इन्वेंशन है द स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ साइंस, द मॉडर्न साइंटिफिक मेथड. मतलब साइंस में इफ यू आर लुकिंग एट ए प्रॉब्लम, हाउ यू शुड एक्सप्लोर इट, हाउ यू शुड solve it, the methodology, inventing that methodology is the biggest invention of all times. Okay, this is what third is saying. The greatest of all invention is the Uber invention that provides insight on which others depend, the modern scientific method. Now they've given you an idea that the modern scientific method is the most important invention. Next sentence will definitely tell you why so. The next sentence does tell you why so. Just a second. Sorry, here it says, to gain meaningful insight, logic has to be accompanied. Why scientific methodology is the biggest invention? Because to gain meaningful insight, logic has to be accompanied by asking probing questions of nature through control tests, precise observations, and clever analysis. So scientific method comprises of this. I'm sure if science students must have definitely read this definition, what qualifies as a science, what we can call science, and you know why some things are not called science, because science involved controlled tests, precise observation, clever analysis, and replication was also another thing that was added to the definition of science. Anyhow, you get the point. Modern scientific method, and because we need to ask questions of these natures. Okay, so and then what will you say? Look forward a few decades to an invention. अब देखो फिर जनरल से स्पेसिफिक मूव किया इन्होंने कि आप सोचिए एक इन्वेंशन विच कैन एंड द एनर्जी क्राइसिस, एंड वी आर गोइंग टू टॉक अबाउट कमर्शियल फ्यूजन पावर. ओके, एंड वी सेज दिस इन्वेंशन इज इनकंसीवेबल विदाउट द साइंटिफिक मेथड. सो इट सेज, अगर आप देखो इन्होंने यहाँ पे कहा मॉडर्न साइंटिफिक मेथड इज मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट. व्हाई? बिकॉज वी नीड टू हैव दिस. फिर उन्होंने उसका एक एग्जांपल दिया, थिंक दैट वी कैन हैव दिस इन्वेंशन कमर्शियल फ्यूजन पावर, एंड टू हैव दिस वी नीड द साइंटिफिक मेथड. So the correct sequencing to this one would be 3, 2, 1, and 4. Again, this was one of the parajambas which was solving itself. Okay, there's like no other way you could have arranged these sentences. Now let's come to a summary question. Alright, summary questions are very easy. You know how to solve summary questions, right? You have to look for the most comprehensive answer, which is simultaneously also factually correct. Okay, and it should cover maximum number of points. That's what you need to keep in mind. Then the passage is there and the options are there, and you can hardly go wrong with it. Okay, it says the unlikely alliance of the incumbent industrialist and the distressed unemployed worker is especially powerful amid the debris of corporate bankruptcies and layoffs. So, जब बुरा इकोनॉमिक टाइम आता है, कॉर्पोरेट बैंक्रप्सीज हो रहे हैं, लेऑफ्स हो रहे हैं, उसकी जो डेबरी इज लाइक जो रिमेन्स बचते हैं, उस समय क्या होता है, इंडस्ट्रीज इनकम्बेंट इज समबडी हु इज ऑलरेडी इन पावर. Okay, somebody is always who is already an industrialist. We are not talking about the new industrialist. We are talking about the existing industrialists and distressed employees. जब बुरा वक्त आता है, जब इकोनॉमिक डाउनटर्न आता है, तो व्हाट वुड यू एक्सपेक्ट? यू वुड एक्सपेक्ट द कैपिटलिस्ट एंड द वर्कर्स वुड शुड फाइट फॉर द रिसोर्सेज, बट ऐसा नहीं होता है. होता कुछ अलग ही है. इन टाइम्स व्हेन द गोइंग गेट्स टफ, व्हेन इन बैड टाइम्स, द इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट and distressed unemployed लोग, they form an unlikely alliance. Okay, these people come together. Okay, in an economic downturn, the capitalist is more likely to focus on cost of the competition emanating from free markets and on the opportunities they create. तो भाई कैपिटलिस्ट की कंसर्न क्या होता है कि इकोनॉमिक डाउनटर्न है, तो इस समय जो दूसरे मार्केट्स हैं वो उनको अपॉर्चुनिटीज की तरह नहीं देखता, वो उनको कंपटीशन की तरह देखता है कि somebody from some other country which is not going through a tough time could come and sell their products more efficiently than we can, because we are suffering through a downturn. ठीक है, so he's in that mode of mind. And the unemployed worker will find many others in similar condition and with anxiety similar to his, which will make it easier for them to organize together. इंडस्ट्रीज के साथ ये प्रॉब्लम है, अनएम्प्लॉयड वर्कर के साथ क्या है, उसको अपने जैसे चारों तरफ लोग दिखते हैं, एंड देयरफॉर इट बिकम्स इजियर फॉर देम टू ऑर्गेनाइज बिकॉज दे ऑल आर सफरिंग फ्रॉम द सेम थिंग. ओके, सो होता है ना, birds of feather flock together, or people who nothing binds you more than a common adversary. दुश्मन का दुश्मन दोस्त होता है. तो because everybody is going through tough times, they come together and they kind of form a union or an alliance or a party. Okay, तो ये वर्कर्स करते हैं. यूजिंग द कवर एंड द पॉलिटिकल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन प्रोवाइडेड बाय द डिस्ट्रेस, द कैपिटलिस्ट कैप्चर्स द पॉलिटिकल एजेंडा. अब क्या होता है, कैपिटलिस्ट को लगता है यार मेरे वर्कर्स दे हैव कोलेटेड देमसेल्व्स इन ग्रेट नंबर्स, नाउ आई हैव ए स्ट्रांग वर्कफोर्स, तो मैं इस समय जो भी पॉलिटिकल एजेंडा अप्रूव कराना चाहूँ करा सकता हूँ, मैं जो भी रूल बनाना चाहूँ. सी आई डोंट नो वेदर एवरीबडी इज गेटिंग इट और नॉट. The entire passage was trying to tell you कि when there is an economic downturn, जब सिचुएशन खराब होती है, तो इन ए नेचुरल कोर्स ऑफ एक्शन क्या होना चाहिए, बाहर की इकोनॉमीज को आपकी कंट्री में आके, आपकी कंट्री का बुरा टाइम चल रहा है, आपकी कंट्री में आके दे शुड मेक ए स्ट्रॉन्ग होल्ड फॉर देमसेल्फ. ठीक है, बाहर का कंपटीशन आके अपनी पकड़ बना सकता है. ठीक है, और पॉलिटिशियन उनको रोकेंगे नहीं बिकॉज फ्री मार्केट अलाउड है. पर क्या होता है जब इकोनॉमिक डाउनटर्न होता है ना, ये जो कैपिटलिस्ट और वर्कर्स दे कम टुगेदर एंड वर्कर्स आर ह्यूज इन नंबर्स, सो कैपिटलिस्ट इनको एज वोट बैंक यूज करते हैं टू get such orders and to get such policies passed which will prevent the entry of foreign players into the market. This is what the passage was talking about. If you can get it, you'll get the passage. बड़ा छोटा सा पैसेज था, बस ये कह रहा था ये जो इंडस्ट्रीज हैं ये वर्कर्स को यूज करते हैं, ठीक है, to get such policies passed which will favor their industry. Okay, that was the length and breadth of this one. Okay, so now let's come to the options that we have. Where should we start from? Let's start with the first one. An unlikely alliance of the industrialist and the unemployed happens during an economic downturn in which they come together to unite politically and capture the political agenda. Okay, they come together. यार यहाँ पे कमिंग टुगेदर ऐसा था ना कि मतलब द ऑथर वाज ट्राइंग टू गिव यू द सेंस कि जो वर्कर्स हैं उनका फायदा उठा लेते हैं कैपिटलिस्ट टू पुश देयर ओन एजेंडा. ठीक है, सो ये नहीं है दे आर नॉट कमिंग टुगेदर एंड दे आर नॉट लाइक इक्वल पार्टनर्स in this situation. They are not equal partners. They are being used by their respective industrialists, and the industrialists are pushing their own agenda. So one is not making it sound as it is written. One is making it sound as if they are becoming equal partners. I don't think one is the answer therefore. The purpose of an unlikely alliance between the industrialist and the unemployed during an economic downturn is to stifle competition in free markets. ठीक है, फ्री मार्केट्स में कंपटीशन को कम करने के लिए साथ आते हैं, बट ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड इट नेवर टॉक्ड अबाउट द पॉलिटिकल एजेंडा थिंग. They come together, but do they fight them? Do they physically fight the competition? No, they fight it through politics, right? They fight it through policies. That point is not captured in second, so not a very good answer. Let's come to third. In an economic downturn, the capitalists use, please mind this word, the capitalists use the anxieties of the unemployed and their political organization. Whose political? The workers' political, the unemployed's political organization, to set the political agenda to suit their economic interest. Who's? Capitalist, not the workers. ठीक है, यहाँ पे ये वाला जो फर्स्ट वाला आपने देयर देखा है, दिस रिफर्स टू द अनएम्प्लॉयड, दिस रिफर्स टू द कैपिटलिस्ट. देखो, a beautiful summary because it captures whatever is given in the passage. Economic downturn capture कर लिया, capitalist use करते हैं ये capture कर लिया, anxieties of the unemployment and their organization to set the agenda to suit their economic interest. Okay, so without any second thoughts, this should have been your answer, right? Okay, third is the answer. Fourth देख लेते हैं. An economic downturn creates competition because of which the capitalists capture the political agenda created by the political organization provided by the unemployed all over the place. पता नहीं क्या ही कह रहा है. Downturn does not create competitions. Downturn is an opportunity for competition. ठीक है, wrong है यहीं पे. Capitalists capture the political agenda created by the political organization. No, this one is definitely factually wrong. Okay, so third is the correct answer. Okay, easy summary. Now let's look at this one. Creativity is now viewed, just a second guys. Okay, creativity is now viewed as the engine of economic progress. ठीक है, जितनी creativity होगी उतनी ज़्यादा economic progress करेगी. Various organizations are devoted to its study and promotion. There are encyclopedias and handbooks surveying creative research. ठीक है, so everybody wants to be creative nowadays. But this proliferating success has tended to erode creativity's stable identity. देखो इस सेंटेंस में वैसे ही पैराडॉक्स लग रहा था ना. क्रिएटिविटी इज नॉट समथिंग दैट यू कैन एक्टिवली परस्यू. यू गेट क्रिएटिव. द होल पॉइंट ऑफ क्रिएटिविटी इज दैट इट कम्स विदाउट अ सिस्टम. इफ इट इज कमिंग थ्रू अ सिस्टम, इट इज नॉट बीइंग क्रिएटिव एनीमोर. तो पैराडॉक्स था वहां पे, उसी को आगे ये बिल्ड ऑन करेंगे. दिस success, because everybody wants to be creative, has tended to erode creativity's stable identity. It has become so invested with value that it has become impossible to polish its meaning. Polish its meaning means regulate the meaning. Creativity जो है उसी को creativity. Not everything becomes creative. And the practices that supposedly identify and encourage it. Many people and organizations committed to producing original thoughts now feel that undue obsession with the idea of creativity gets in the way of real creativity. Like I was saying, if you are pursuing creativity, if you are trying to achieve creativity through a system, it is not being creative anymore. I think that was the whole idea of the passage. Now let's come to the questions. Okay, first says the obsession with original thought, how it can be promoted in research, has made it impossible. Impossible थोड़ा ज़्यादा नहीं हो गया? ठीक है, a very an extreme word. Okay, क्रिएटिविटी स्टिफल हुई है, कम हुई है, बट रियली कॉल इट इम्पॉसिबल? आई डोंट थिंक सो. ठीक है, it is impossible for them to define. No, they can define the concept, they just do not practice it. Okay, so first is not right. The industry that is built up around researching what comprises and encourages creativity has destroyed. See, there is no industry. In every industry we have processes to bring out creativity. तो ऐसा नहीं कि पूरी एक इंडस्ट्री है जो अलग से क्रिएटिविटी को डिवोटेड है एंड इट इज डिस्ट्रॉइंग द क्रिएटिव प्रोसेस. नो, इन ऑल द इंडस्ट्री वी आर ट्राइंग टू अचीव क्रिएटिविटी. रॉन्ग, दिस वन एज वेल. ओके, द वैल्यू असाइन टू क्रिएटिविटी टुडे हैज assumed such proportions, ठीक है, that the concept itself has lost its real meaning. Good. And this is hampering the engendering is production of real creativity. I think really captured what the passage was saying. Third is right. Creativity has proliferated means grown to the extent that it is no longer stable. No, there is nothing wrong with creativity. It's just that what organization are doing is just lip service or a token service to the act of creativity. Like I said, the whole point of creativity is that it should come naturally to you. You cannot really have a system and then call it creative. Okay, that's the point of it. Okay, now let's come to 23rd. Okay, biologists who publish their research. Okay, this one is talking about that before submitting their, like you scientists, they do all the research, और फिर उस research को recognize कराने के लिए, उस research को acknowledge कराने के लिए they get it published in scientific journals, जहाँ पे peer reviews होते हैं, बड़े बड़े scientists उनको पढ़ते हैं, and they have their own critique of what is right and what is wrong, and eventually this is how science progresses. तो उसी की बात करना है कि before even getting that published in a reputed scientific journals, most of the time people are publishing it on web. So that's the issue that we are going to discuss. Biologists who publish their research directly to the web have been labeled as rogue. Rogue in the sense, not rogue is someone who has gone rogue. Basically means somebody who's not doing the traditional things, somebody who's not walking the normal path, somebody who's doing his own thing. So biologists who publish their research directly to the web have been labeled as rogue, but physicists have been routinely publishing research directly prior to submitting in a peer-reviewed journal. तो biologists को तो they are very conservative, ये कह रहे हैं passage. अगर वो करते हैं तो उनको तो rogue declare कर दिया जाता है that these guys are not following the norm. But physicists तो ये बहुत ज़माने से करते आ रहे हैं. They routinely publish their research directly to the web, okay, before publishing in a peer-reviewed journal. Advocates of preprints, preprint is the one that is published on web. Advocates of preprints argue that quick and open dissemination of research speeds up scientific progress and allows for wider access to knowledge. तो भाई जो लोग प्रीप्रिंट को या वेब पे पब्लिश करने को फेवर करते हैं वो कहते हैं दिस डिससेमिनेशन ऑफ रिसर्च, यानी रिसर्च फैलती इससे ज़्यादा तेजी से और ज़्यादा अच्छे से है. ऑब्वियसली पीपल फ्रॉम ऑल पार्ट्स ऑफ द वर्ल्ड, नॉट ओनली पीपल हु आर रीडिंग दोज जर्नल्स बट एनीबडी who has an internet connection can read it, and they can write, they can send their feedback, they can analyze it. So this is quick and open dissemination of research, and this speeds up scientific process and allows for wider access to knowledge. But some journals still don't accept research previously published as a preprint. Author कह रहे हैं इसके बावजूद भी there are many journals, ठीक है, the old school journals जो they do not accept anything which has been published beforehand. Okay, they say that you have already published it on web, so we are not going to publish it because we only take things which are pristine and virgin and are coming on the journal for the very first time. Even if the idea of preprint is gaining ground, one of the biggest barriers for biologists is how they would be viewed by members of their conservative research community. Okay, all right. So let's see. Okay, here are the 4 options. I'll start from the last one because the first is the correct one, but we'll come to that. Let's start from the 4th one. While digital publication of research is gaining popularity in many scientific disciplines, almost all peer-reviewed journals, this because of this word. एक्सट्रीम वर्ड तो जिस भी ऑप्शन में हो ना उसको आप जान जाइए कि उसका सही होने का चांस बहुत कम होता है. इम्पॉसिबल, ऑल, एवरीवन, वहाँ पे तो होता ही है बिकॉज कहीं पैसेज में नहीं कहा कि ऑलमोस्ट ऑल, मोस्ट ऑफ देम, स्टिल क्या कहा था पैसेज में, मोस्ट ऑफ देम भी नहीं कहा था. सॉरी डिड आई लूज इट. सम जर्नल्स, इन्होंने बहुत स्पेसिफिक सम जर्नल्स कहा था और ये कहते हैं ऑलमोस्ट ऑल जर्नल्स आर रिलक्टेंट टू एक्सेप्ट पेपर दैट हैव बीन पब्लिश्ड बिफोर. सो रॉन्ग एंड रॉन्ग. Okay. Okay. Third says preprints of research are frowned on by some scientific field as they do not undergo a rigorous reviewing process but are accepted among biologists. Nobody, biologist नहीं, physicist के बीच में accept किया गया है. Biologists are still worried how they would be perceived. So wrong. Factually wrong है तो बाकी कुछ सोचना ही नहीं है. One of the advantages of digital preprints of research is that they hasten मतलब fast कर देते हैं dissemination process, but these are not accepted by most scientific. अब देखो again because of this word most scientific communities. How do I know? Some तो उन्होंने वहाँ पे use किया है. अब बात की है biologist और physicist की. What do we know, like the other communities, other science streams, whether they accept it or not? Nothing has been said about it, so we cannot really say concluded. So these are 3 options are factually wrong. By default this option is correct, but let's read it to doubly ensure ourselves. Compared to biologists, physicists are less conservative in their acceptance of देखो biologist भी आ गया, physicist भी आ गया, physicists are less conservative भी आ गया in their acceptance of digital pre-publication of research paper, which allows for faster dissemination of knowledge. Yeah, correct. Okay, so first was the correct answer. Now what do we have here? Odd one out. Okay. Let's see. Last question for V. Okay. It has taken on a warm fuzzy glow in the advertising word. What? It refers to what? Can't be the first sentence. There is little enthusiasm for this. Can't be the first sentence. I hope you're getting my point. These things are talking about something which has not been introduced yet, so really can't be the first sentence. The new growing field of neuromarketing attempts to reveal the inner workings of consumer behavior and is an extension of how choices and decisions are made. Could be the start, but let's read further. Some see neuromarketing. तो अच्छा, some see neuromarketing वाला है. तो थर्ड वाला which was saying the new field of neuromarketing would be come prior to this. ये तो क्लियर हो गया, क्योंकि अब यहाँ पे हम बड़े कैजुअली उसको रेफर कर रहे हैं. यहाँ पे हमने उसको इंट्रोड्यूस किया था, दैट इज अ न्यू ग्रोइंग फील्ड ऑफ न्यूरोमार्केटिंग. The marketing gurus have already started. Can't be the first sentence. So the first sentence is definitely the new growing field of neuromarketing attempts to reveal the inner workings of consumer behavior and is an extension of the study of how choices and decisions are made. ठीक है, तो दिमाग में how people are deciding what to buy, what not to buy. This is explored through neuromarketing. ठीक है, एक नई फील्ड आई है. चलो, this was the first sentence. उसके बाद आ जाएगा it has taken on a warm fuzzy glow in the advertising world where its potential, किसका, न्यूरोमार्केटिंग का, is being widely discussed and it is being claimed as the undeniable wave of the future. कि आने वाला फ्यूचर न्यूरोमार्केटिंग का है. Cool. Okay, then you'll say some see neuromarketing as an attempt to make the art of advertising into a science being used by marketing experts to back up their proposal with some form of real data. ठीक है, तो इन्होंने कहा न्यूरो मार्केटिंग आया है नया बाजार में, लोग इसको लेके बहुत एक्साइटेड हैं. दे थिंक दैट इट इज गोइंग टू बी द नेक्स्ट बिग थिंग, बट इसके क्रिटिक्स भी हैं. क्रिटिक्स सेज दैट इट इज एन अटेम्प्ट, एडवर्टाइजिंग इज एन आर्ट. Okay, it's a creative field, but you are trying to make it a science जहाँ पे you can tabulate data and find out what will work and what will not work. Okay, then it says there is little enthusiasm for this in the scientific arena. For them marketing is not a science. So art and science वाले से यहाँ पे directly connect हुआ. Marketing is not a science and only a handful of studies have been published in scientific journals. Okay, so this one becomes your odd one out. That was your parajumble. Okay, parajumble was third, first, fourth and second, and fifth is your odd one out, which, because it says the marketing gurus have already started drawing on psychology in developing test and theory and advertising people have borrowed. See, this is not even talking about the topic that we were discussing. This is न्यूरो मार्केटिंग की बात नहीं कर रहे हैं. वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट साइकोलॉजी. साइकोलॉजी इज ऑलरेडी देयर. न्यूरो मार्केटिंग इज लाइक making it a more practical science, while psychology is more of an abstract science, if I may say so. I don't want any criticism for it, but psychology is not pertaining to observation. It is observation, but nobody is actually looking inside your brain. Psychology deals with mind, while science is supposed to deal with brain, if I may put it like this. Very random thing, but this is talking about something else. Okay, and therefore fifth was your odd one out. So we are done with the verbal ability part of it. Now let's quickly come to the reading comprehension. कौन सा reading comprehension से start किया जाए? Should we start from the start? The tough one. I can. मेरे को तो tough one वाला अच्छा लगा. I got all correct, I guess. Okay. चलो, let's do it. We'll read it very quickly because I want to keep the session, reasonably long and reasonably short. Anything that exceeds 1 hour start losing the interest of the audience. So I'll just quickly go through it. मुझे बताना जाना ही समझ में आए. The author says, I have elaborated dot लिखने का मतलब हमेशा होता है कि बीच में ऑथर ने और बहुत कुछ लिखा जो आपके लिए रेलेवेंट नहीं था, तो पैसेज बनाते वक्त उसे निकाल दिया गया. ठीक है, कुछ इन्होंने लिखा था, बट वहाँ पे आगे अब यहाँ से ले रहे हैं. I have elaborated a framework for analyzing the contradictory pulse on Indian nationalist ideology in its struggle against the dominance of colonialism and the resolution it offered to those contradictions. तो author ने कहा कि भाई देखो, Indian nationalist ideology, nationalism is an idea that my nation is superior to other. Anything with an ism has a sense of negativity to it, where you assume that fast, socialism, fascism, anything with an ism. ठीक है? Sorry, I was about to say the name of certain religion, but I will not. Okay. All I'm saying is, whenever you put ism into something, it becomes a feeling of pride, unnecessary pride, that my thing is superior to your thing. ठीक है? तो इन्होंने कहा कि इंडियन नेशनलिस्ट आइडियोलॉजी में कॉन्ट्राडिक्टरी पुल है. एक तरफ तो वी आर फाइटिंग कॉलोनलिज्म एंड the resolution it offered to those contradictions. ठीक है? So on one hand you are thinking your nation is better, but on the other hand colonial powers are dominating you and you have to fight them off, and there are inherent contradictions in it, and the author said that I have given you the resolutions to those contradictions, how we can resolve those contradictions. Briefly, this resolution was built around a separation of the domain of culture into two spheres, the material and the spiritual. ठीक है? तो आप कैसे देखते हो ये जो कॉन्ट्रडिक्शन है कि भाई हमको करने तो वेस्टर्न तरीके से चीज़ें हैं, बट हम बिलीव ये करते हैं दैट आवर इंडियन वे ऑफ लिविंग इज सुपीरियर. यू हैव रेड द पैसेज सो यू गेट द आइडिया. बेसिक इसमें ये बात थी कि वी हैव टू अडेप्ट टू द वेस्टर्न वे ऑफ लाइफ. वी हैव टू अडेप्ट टू द वे थिंग्स आर डन इन द वेस्टर्न वर्ल्ड, because they are definitely superior to us materially. Okay, but we also have this notion, we also have this idea that our thing, our culture, our way of life is better. So how do we resolve it? So it says the resolution comes in the form of a division, a separation into two spheres, the material and the spiritual. Material हमारा culture अलग होगा, spiritual culture अलग होगा. It was in the material sphere that the claims of Western civilization were the most powerful. Science, technology, rational forms of economic organization, modern methods of statecraft, these had given the European countries the strength to subjugate the North European people. तो material sphere, material domain में तो they are definitely superior. Their way of doing things is superior. How so? Because they have used these things to dominate everybody else who was not doing these things. To then dots मतलब कुछ रहा होगा. To overcome this domination, the colonized people had to learn these superior techniques of organizing material life and incorporate them within their own culture. So, they are by default better in that particular sphere. We cannot beat them unless we join them. We cannot beat their technology and techniques unless we learn them and incorporate them in our own lives. Okay? So colonized people have to learn the way of the Western world in the material sphere. But this could not mean the imitation of the West in every aspect of life, for then the very distinction between the West and East would vanish. The self-identity of national culture would itself be threatened. So we cannot do it in all spheres because we are proud to be Indians. We are proud of our culture and what not. तो अगर हम ऐसा करेंगे कि हम उनको हराने के लिए उनके जैसे बन जाएंगे, तो हम तो अपने आप में ही कहीं खो जाएंगे. So there is a paradox in this situation as well. Okay, so we cannot adapt to their way of living in all aspects of life. Okay, the discourse is discussion. The discourse of nationalism shows that the material spiritual distinction was condensed into an analogous, which means parallel, into an parallel but ideologically far more powerful dichotomy. तो material spiritual distinction है, ये उसी तरह का एक distinction है, उसी तरह का एक डाइकोटमी या विरोधाभास या डिफरेंस है जो हमको देखने मिलता है बिटवीन द आउटर एंड द इनर. जो हमारे कल्चर में आउटर और इनर का बीच का डिफरेंस है, वही हमें मटेरियल और स्पिरिचुअल डिस्टिंक्शन में देखने मिलता है. ठीक है, और हमारा जो आउटर और इनर का डिफरेंस है, दिस इज फार मोर पावरफुल देन द मटेरियल स्पिरिचुअल डिस्टिंक्शन. ठीक है, सो व्हाट इज दिस आउटर एंड इनर थिंग? Applying the inner-outer distinction to the matter of concrete day-to-day living separates the social space into ghar and bahir, the home and the world. The world is the external, the domain of the material. The home represents one's inner spiritual self, one's true identity. ठीक है, तो बाहर से तो मैं बाबू साहब अंग्रेज जैसा लग सकता हूँ, बट फिर भी दिल है हिंदुस्तानी. The world is a treacherous terrain of the pursuit of material interest. दुनिया में treacherous means बहुत धोखे हैं. Terrain मतलब it's not easy. Terrain is surface. So treacherous terrain, it is not easy to navigate. बहुत खतरे हैं जब आप material interest को pursue करते हो. Where practical considerations reign supreme, it is also typically the domain of the male. The home in its essence must remain unaffected by the profane activities of the material. Profane is dirty, polluting. So home, आप बाहर चाहे जो करो, बीइंग अ मेल you have to live the way of the word, तो आप बाहर उसे चाहे जो करो, but home should remain unaffected by the polluting activities of the material world, and women is its representation. तो बाहर की दुनिया में आप चाहे जैसे हो, हर की दुनिया एक different दुनिया है, and that is represented by a woman. Please try to understand. Author is not making a point. He's just trying to. It's not as if he's saying that the women should be confined to home and the men should go out. He's just trying that. He's just trying to delineate, to list out the way they have been perceived. These are representations. Let's read further. So one gets an identification of social roles by gender to correspond with the separation of the social space into ghar and pai. Okay. The colonial situation and the ideological response of nationalism to the critique of Indian tradition introduces an entirely new substance to these dichotomies and affected their transformation. तो इन्होंने कहा जब colonial powers आए, जब घर और बाहर का distinction हमारे यहाँ it was always there, but जब colonial situation आई और जो हम अपने nationalism पे बड़ा proud करते थे और हमारा nationalism ऐसा था, it was submitting a critique, a judgment of Indian tradition, that Indian traditions are not good for our nation, that kind of a thing. एक नया substance add हुआ and इन दोनों चीज को, ये घर बाहर और inner outer की dichotomy को change किया. क्या था वो? The material spiritual dichotomy to which the terms word and the home corresponded. तो घर और बाहर का जो difference था, उसका physical ramification हुआ that मेरी material life में I am probably a money hoarding businessman. I want to extract as much money as I can. I want to, I will use all the tactics that I could use. But spiritually, I believe in God. I still go to temples. I still, I also distribute money amongst the poor. So I do that. So there is this material spiritual dichotomy. The material spiritual dichotomy to which the word and home corresponded had acquired a very special significance in the nationalist mind. The word was where the European power had challenged the non-European peoples and by virtue of its superior material culture had subjugated them. But the nationalists asserted it had failed to colonize the inner. ठीक है, मेरी आत्मा आज भी आजाद है. Its essential identity of the East, which lay in its distinctive and superior spiritual culture. कि ठीक है, बाहर से देखने में तो we have adopted to the Western way of life, but from our superior self is still intact. We are still Indians from the inside. In the entire phase of the national struggle, the crucial need was to protect, preserve, and strengthen the inner core of the national culture, its spiritual essence. Once we match the new meaning of the home word dichotomy with the identification of social roles by gender, we get the ideological framework within which nationalism answered the women's question. ठीक है? This means social roles gender से define हो गए, home word dichotomy gender से define हो गई, और इसलिए women का क्या role है national level पे, national politics में या national when we take this national point of view, we get that answer. It would be grave error to see in this, as liberals are apt to. Okay, it would be grave error to see in this a total rejection of the West. 2 commas आप sentence को उसके beyond पढ़िए. ठीक है, liberal अक्सर ये mistake करते हैं that they say that whatever West is doing is bad, but author is saying it would be a great error. Quite the contrary, in the nationalist paradigm, in fact, supplied an ideological principle of selection. West से जो अच्छा लगे वो लो, East से जो अच्छा लगे वो लो. Alright, let's come to the questions. On the basis of the information in the passage, all of the following are true about the spiritual material dichotomy of Indian nationalism. All are true except, okay. So, Indian nationalism constituted the premise of the Ghar-Bahar dichotomy. Yes, I think that was there. So, this is not the answer. Was not as ideologically powerful as the inner-outer dichotomy. ये देखो यहाँ पे कहा गया था ना, in this part, material spiritual distinction was parallel to but ideologically far more powerful dichotomy. Which was the ideological more powerful dichotomy? The outer inner dichotomy was more powerful than the material spiritual dichotomy. ठीक है, तो material spiritual dichotomy was not as powerful as the inner outer dichotomy. So this is also given in the passage and therefore this is also not my answer. ठीक है, Then it says represented a continuation of age old opposition in Indian culture. Indian culture में तो हमेशा opposition वाली चीज चली है. I think this was never given, and in fact this dichotomy and this opposition thing became very strong because of the colonial rule. That's why the author was mentioning it again and again. ठीक है? So ऐसा नहीं है that the opposition is a part of Indian culture. So therefore this is the answer. Helped in safeguarding the identity of Indian nationalism is given, and therefore third is your answer, right? Which one of the following best describes the liberal perception of Indian nationalism? ठीक है, तो liberal perception उनका क्या था? देखो यहाँ पे था ना, liberal perception था social rules by gender वाला. ठीक है, आप इसको देखो. Indian nationalism embraced the change brought about by colonialism in India. Indian women's traditional gender roles. तो colonialism की वजह से अंग्रेजों के आने के बाद जेंडर रोल्स में चेंजेस हो गए? नहीं हुए ना. एटलीस्ट इंडियन नेशनलिज्म के लिए हिसाब से नहीं हुए, हम लोग के लिए हुए. The nationalists still believe that the men should go out in the material world and women still represent the home and earth. तो उनके हिसाब से जेंडर रोल चेंज नहीं हुआ था, and therefore first was not the answer. Indian nationalism sophistication resided in its distinction of the material form from the spiritual sphere. ठीक है, बट ये लिबरल परसेप्शन की बात कहाँ है इसमें? ये मतलब लिबरल मीन्स अलाउइंग इट टू एग्जिस्ट, तो वो चीज़ तो आया नहीं. इन्होंने सिंपली कहा मटीरियल एंड स्पिरिचुअल डिफरेंट है, तो दिस इज नॉट द आंसर. इंडियन नेशनलिस्ट डिस्कोर्सेस रीअफर्म्ड ट्रेडिशनल जेंडर रोल्स फॉर इंडियन वुमेन. आई थिंक दिस इज द आंसर. दिस वाज देयर लिबरल परसेप्शन. ठीक है, उन्होंने कहा कि दिस इज बेटर, दैट इज गुड, बट उन्होंने कहा दैट ट्रेडिशनल जेंडर रोल्स शुड कंटिन्यू. ठीक है, या they were not opposed to it. So third is the answer, and fourth says Indian national discourses provided an ideological principle of selection, which it did, but again a liberal perception of Indian nationalism को नहीं count कर रहा है. Therefore third is the correct answer. Let's come to this one. Which would weaken the author's claim in the passage? ऑथर ने जितना भी क्लेम किया, ऑथर ने डायकोटमी की बात की है, इनर आउटर की बात की है, मटेरियल स्पिरिचुअल की बात की है. ठीक है, I think, sorry, no, oh, पहले ही क्वेश्चन, sorry I left this question. ठीक है, तो क्वेश्चन नंबर 3 देख लेते हैं. Despite which one of the following explains the contradictory pulls on Indian nationalism? तो contradictory pulls क्या फील कर रहे थे हम? वो I think I'll come straight to this answer. Despite its fights against colonial domination, Indian nationalism had to borrow from colonizer in the material sphere. ठीक है, हम उन्हीं को फाइट कर रहे थे पर उन्हीं से सीख रहे थे, और यही डायकोटमी थी. ठीक है, सो फोर्थ इज द आंसर. अब थर्ड कह रहा है डिस्पाइट इट्स स्पिरिचुअल सुपीरियरिटी दे हैड टू फाइट अगेंस्ट, तो इसमें डायकोटमी तो नहीं आई ना. हम बेटर हैं इसलिए हम अपने जो कॉलोनियल डोमिनेशन है उसको फाइट अवे कर रहे हैं, हम अंग्रेजों को भगाना चाहते हैं बिकॉज वी आर बेटर टू लिव एज वी वर लिविंग. तो इसमें डायकोटमी कहीं से नहीं है, देयरफॉर दिस इज नॉट द आंसर. Despite fight against colonial domination, Indian nationalism had to borrow from the no, they did not borrow from in the spiritual sphere. They were borrowed in the material sphere. Not the answer. Despite scientific and technological inferiority, okay, Indian nationalism had to fight. तो fight कर रहे हैं, तो उसमें डायकोटमी नहीं है ना. ठीक है, डायकोटमी तो ये आई, सॉरी कॉन्ट्राडिक्टरी पुल तो ये आया कि मुझे लड़ना भी उन्हीं से और सीखना भी उन्हीं से, एंड देयरफॉर द बेस्ट आंसर वाज फोर्थ. Let's come to this one. Which one of the following, if true, would weaken the author's claim in the passage? Okay, author ने कुछ claim किए थे. Author का first claim would weaken the author's claim. The Industrial Revolution played a crucial role in shaping the economic prowess of Britain in the 18th century. सी नॉट गिवन इन द पैसेज, बट इससे क्या फर्क पड़ता है? ऑथर का जो क्लेम था, जो डायकोटमी की बात थी, ऑथर का मेन क्लेम था कि कॉलोनियल से हमको सीखना भी था, उनसे लड़ना भी था, एंड दिस वाज अ मेजर प्रॉब्लम दैट वी वर फेसिंग. एंड फिर हमने उसे रिजॉल्व किया, हमने उसे समझा कि दिस इज जस्ट लाइक घर एंड बाहर. ओके, दैट डिफरेंस. सो इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन प्लेड अ रोल इन मेकिंग ब्रिटेन पावरफुल इकोनॉमिकली. I don't think that has got anything to do with our passage, and therefore that's not the answer. The colonial period saw the hybridization of Indian culture in all realms as it came in contact with British European culture. Yes, I think this hybridization of Indian culture in all realms. See, if this is true, देन जो हम कह रहे थे कि मटेरियल में तो उनसे इन्फ्लुएंस हुए थे, स्पिरिचुअल में नहीं इन्फ्लुएंस हुए थे, वो क्लेम खराब हो जाएगा। और क्वेश्चन ही पूछा था ना कि ऑथर का कौन, विच ऑफ द ऑप्शन इफ ट्रू वुड वीकन द ऑथर्स क्लेम. Author made a claim that we learned from them in the material sphere, but in the spiritually we were better off and we did not let them touch our spiritual side. But if we believe this is true, that colonial period see the hybridization of Indian culture in all realms, then the author's claim is weakened and falls flat. Therefore, second is not the answer. Okay. Third, Indian nationalists rejected the cause of English education for women during the colonial period, did they? So it doesn't really make a difference. ठीक है, that was not the author claim. Author claim तो I think बहुत clearly इसी से weaken होगा जब इन्होंने कहा all realms, because we were trying to make the point that we were only affected on the material side of it, not on the spiritual side of it. Forces of colonial modernity played an important role in shaping anti-colonial Indian nationalism. Okay, never mind this. ठीक है, colonial modernity played an important role in shaping anti-colonial, but this was what the author was saying himself, so this is not weakening the author's claim, this is in fact strengthening it, and therefore this is not the answer. Okay, so the correct answer to this one would be second. All right, I'll come directly to the questions of this one, or should I explain the passage? I think this was an easy read passage, so I will not waste too much time just reading through the passage. We'll come to the questions. If you do not get the meaning of the passage, or if you want to understand something in the passage, feel free to contact us. All right. So this was a passage on languages. The passage spoke that most of the world's languages which were transmitted orally can run the danger of getting lost forever. अगर population पूरी खत्म हो जा रही है, people stop speaking it and people move on to or trade up. Trade up is that for an advantage you move on to some other language, you start speaking some other language, and slowly your own language gets relegated in the background, and it meets like it vanishes from the scene. So oral languages which are not documented, they run the risk of getting lost for forever. This was one thing that he said. Then he gave a few examples, and then he says that not technology is changing thing, because with technology you don't have to actually write the language for recording them. You can, he gave an example where he said that Nepali immigrants, they are shooting a video with the original songs in London and sending it to their tribe. So once you record it on the video, it, even if you have not documented it, it is going to remain there for, if you have uploaded it on YouTube, it is going to remain there on internet. So basically the author is saying that technology can be used to save these languages from vanishing from the scene. Okay, so this was the gist of the passage. Anything else that and then at the end of the passage he talked about monolingualism and multilingualism, and he said that monolingualism is practiced in countries where they think that their language is superior to all other languages, and but honestly speaking, the way of the universe, of the way of the world is always multilingualism. And multilingualism, such societies where multilingualism has happened, people speak different languages, they are more cooperative societies and they kind of sustain themselves. Whereas if you insist on monolingualism, that there is only one language and one language above every other language, it will lead to the downfall of the society, something to that sort. Okay, now let's come to the question. The author lists all of the following as a reason for the decline or disappearance of a language, except. So the reason he has given for disappearance of language, the reason he has given here. Okay. So they are at risk when elders dies and livelihoods are disrupted. War, famine, and natural disasters, whole communities can be destroyed, taking languages with them to grave. He gave an example. Speakers live on but abandon their language. That's another reason. There is a language shift that happens. Trading up happens. Okay, for economic and educational reasons. So these are few reasons which he gave for languages to diminish or decline. The focus on only a few languages as a result of widespread internet use. No, on the contrary, author said that because of internet use, even if you are few in numbers, you can still retain the language. So I don't think this is given as a reason for the decline, and this should be the correct answer. But बाकी देख लेते हैं. A catastrophic event that entirely eliminates the people and their culture. This was given as a prime reason कि भाई अगर पूरी population जो उस language को बोलती है वही vanish कर जा रही है, and it is an oral language, no written records are there, so language will vanish with the people. So this is not the answer. People shifting away from their own language to study or work in another language shift given, so not answer. Governments promoting certain languages over others. If you insist that one language is better than others and everybody should speak only this language, obviously the other languages will vanish. So this is also the reason, and therefore the correct answer, even if you've not read the passage, even if you read through the key points, still you can mark this as the correct answer. So the correct answer is first. Next question. From the passage, we can infer that the author is in favor of, let's see, is he in favor of cultural homogenization, that everybody should be same, everything should be same? Definitely not. तो इसको तो आप काट दो. Is he in favor of language shifts across languages? Definitely not. He says this will, अगर आप shift करोगे तो फिर तो जो बढ़िया जो major languages है फिर वही survive करेंगे, जो languages economic languages नहीं है, they will die off. ठीक है, so he is not in favor of this. An expanded state role in preservation of languages. क्या author ये कह रहा है कि गवर्नमेंट को ही बहुत करना चाहिए? नहीं. He is what he is essentially in favor of. He is in favor of greater multilingualism. More languages are there, better it is for the world. Okay, so this is what he was saying, and this is your correct answer. The author mentions the Welsh language. अब Welsh language को इन्होंने कहाँ mention किया था? देखो मैं दिखाता हूँ. यहाँ पे किया था. Just one second. हाँ, देखो यहाँ पे इन्होंने कहा था such trading up and out of speech form occurs for complex political, cultural and economic reason. तो ये जो लैंग्वेज में चेंज होता है, आप एक लैंग्वेज छोड़ के दूसरी लैंग्वेज बोलने लगते हो, इसके कई रीजंस होते हैं, विच कैन बी पॉलिटिकल, कल्चरल एंड इकोनॉमिक. समटाइम्स वॉलंटरी, कई बार आप ये खुद करते हो, फॉर इकोनॉमिक एंड एजुकेशनल रीजन. ऑल्दो ऑफन एम्पलीफाइड बाई स्टेट कोर्जन. स्टेट कोर्जन मतलब आपकी गवर्नमेंट, आपकी जो अथॉरिटीज़ हैं वो आपको मजबूर करती हैं. मान लो लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल government says that only English will be used in our offices. So what will happen? Everybody will start learning English only, and the other local languages, they will be relegated. They will vanish from the scene, because then there is no economic interest in learning those languages, and people will then stop learning those languages. ठीक है? So although amplified by state coercion or neglect. तो इन्होंने कहा अगर स्टेट फोर्स करती है या स्टेट किसी लैंग्वेज को नेग्लेक्ट करती है तो वो लैंग्वेज खत्म हो जाती है. फिर ऑथर ने कहा वेल्श विच इज अ लैंग्वेज लॉन्ग स्टिग्मेटाइज्ड एंड डिस्पैराज्ड बाय द ब्रिटिश स्टेट. तो वेल्श एक लोकल लैंग्वेज थी जिसको ब्रिटिश पीपल ने काफ़ी डिस्करेज किया, काफ़ी स्टिग्मेटाइज किया कि अगर आप वेल्श बोलते हो तो आप देहाती हो टाइप्स. हैज रीबाउंडेड विद विगर, हैज कम बैक टू द सीन. व्हाई? बिकॉज गवर्नमेंट उसको प्रमोट कर रही है. ठीक है, सो दैट वाज द आइडिया दैट ही गिव. नाउ लेट्स लुक एट द ऑप्शंस. He says, he mentions Welsh language to show that efforts to integrate Welsh speaker in the English speaking fold have been fruitless. No, it has come with vigor. Languages can revive even after their speakers have gone through a language shift. Yes, revive कर सकती है, but this is not a very good answer because we have a better answer. Vulnerable languages can no, अच्छा, third is not the answer because of this word. Vulnerable की बात नहीं थी. Vulnerable means खतरे में जो languages है वो स्टेट एफर्ट से वापस आ सकती हैं. बट वेल्श को वल्नरेबल नहीं कहा था, इट वॉज स्टिग्मेटाइज, इट वॉज डिस्पराज्ड बाय द ब्रिटिश. ठीक है, तो लैंग्वेज शिफ्ट हुआ था, बट इट कैन स्टिल कम बैक. सो आई थिंक आई गो विद सेकंड एज द आंसर. ठीक है. While often pilloried is criticized, globalization can in fact support linguistic revival. That is true, but his point of Welsh language was that something which was lost, something which was considered to be lost, has come back with vigor. So languages can revive. Okay, so that's the answer. We can infer all of the following about indigenous languages from the passage except that, okay, people are increasingly working on documenting these languages. हाँ, ये तो हमने इन्फर किया ना, वो जहाँ पे था कि इंटरनेट यूज कर रहे हैं, people are trying to making videos etc. That is documenting the languages. So more and more people are joining it. Okay, they are in the danger of being wiped out as most can be transmitted orally. That was the whole point of the passage. So this is an inference and we are not marking this as answer. the repository of traditional knowledge about the environment and culture. वहाँ पे जहाँ पे कहा था ना medicinal plants etc. ये they function as vehicle for transmission of culture, traditions, environmental understanding and knowledge about medicinal plants. ठीक है? So they are repository of knowledge. Okay? So the answer is their vocabulary and grammatical constructs have been challenging to document. ये कहीं नहीं कहा गया है that they were not documented and they were not written because they can't be written. All right? So we cannot infer that. Okay? So second is the answer. ठीक है, easy passage था. Let's see. Just a second. This one is okay. Two more passages to go. Let's see this one. This was an interesting passage because it gave me a new thought. It says, can we really attain knowledge? The scandal of philosophy that was given in the passage was the question, can we really attain knowledge? Because what is knowledge? If knowledge is something that is knowing the true self or reality of something outside of our perception, तो अगर कोई चीज़ रियल है, चाहे मैं देखूं, चाहे मैं उसे समझूं या ना समझूं, तो अगर मैं उसे समझ रहा हूं अपने परसेप्शन से, so am I really getting understanding the reality of it or not? It was a little on the abstract side. Yeah, it was saying there are 4 slides to it, but let's read it quickly because how else should I explain this? Okay. It has been said that knowledge or the problem of knowledge is a scandal of philosophy. The scandal is philosophy's apparent inability to show how, when, and why we can be sure that we know something, or indeed that we know anything. ठीक है? तो philosophy can never answer, do we really know something, or can we really know something at all? Philosopher Michael Williams writes, is it possible to obtain knowledge at all? This problem is pressing because there are powerful arguments, some very ancient, for the conclusion that it is not. So the author this philosopher says that there are very strong argument that says that we cannot obtain knowledge. Skepticism is the skeleton in Western rationalism closet. So Western rationalism is figuring out things. Logic से सब चीज़ समझने का जो है उसके क्लोजेट में उसका एक डार्क सीक्रेट है skepticism. मतलब people don't talk about it but it is there. That skepticism is not ready to believe, questioning everything. So people do not question these things as much as they should. While it is not clear that the scandal matters to anyone, but philosophers point out that it should matter to everyone, at least given a certain conception of knowledge. देखो भाई, you and I are happy learning whatever we are learning. We do not doubt it whether what we are learning is absolute or true or not. So it does not matter much to people other than philosophers. But philosopher says it should be matter to everyone. It should matter to everyone because your concept of knowledge should be understood by everyone. For they explain, unless we can ground our claims to knowledge as such, wishes to say distinguish it from mere opinion. See, हमारी knowledge ऐसी होनी चाहिए कि हमको जो real है और जो सिर्फ एक opinion है या superstition या fantasy या wishful thinking है या ideology या illusion है या delusion है, उसको और knowledge के बीच के difference को हमको समझना पड़ेगा, तभी हम कह सकते हैं कि हमने किसी चीज़ को real में समझा. ठीक है? That the actions we take on the basis of presumed knowledge will be irrational and unjustifiable. मगर किसी चीज़ को बिना truly जाने हम उसके basis में action लेते हैं. Like if I get on an airplane without knowing how the plane flies, without understanding the mechanism of it, so I'm essentially doing something which is irrational, something which I should not have done because I do know nothing. I just believe that this plane is going to take me from point A and land me on point B. Okay, so this is what the author is saying. This is all quite serious sounding, but so also are the rattlings of this skeleton. Rattlings यानी जो skeptics वो चीज़ कहते हैं वो भी काफ़ी serious है. That is the skeptic's contention that we cannot be sure that we know anything, at least not if we think of knowledge as something like having a correct mental representation of reality. अब देखो इस पूरे पैसेज में इन्होंने कहा है कि हम किसी चीज़ को क्या समझते हैं ये हमारा परसेप्शन है, पर क्या वो चीज़ हमारे परसेप्शन के आउटसाइड भी एग्जिस्ट करती है. If I'm looking at something is like for example, what I see as blue, do you also see it as blue? Because how do we know how blue is blue or what is true blue? I hope I'm not confusing you. It is coming from philosophy. It says सब चीज तो हमारे परसेप्शन पे डिपेंड कर रही है, तो क्या परसेप्शन के आउटसाइड भी उसकी कोई एग्जिस्टेंस है? अगर है तो हमें उसे समझना चाहिए, बिकॉज वो उसकी रियलिटी है। बट हम उस रियलिटी तक पहुंचे कैसे? क्योंकि पहुंचने का जो मीडियम है वो तो परसेप्शन ही है, एंड माई परसेप्शन कैन मैनिपुलेट थिंग्स, राइट? ओके, सो दिस वाज द सेकंड पैरा। ऑलराइट यार, उसके बाद फिर इन्होंने यहाँ पे कहा है, ये क्वेश्चन तो बहुत पर्टिनेंट है, बट हाउ डू वी हैंडल दिस सिचुएशन? वी कैन हैंडल दिस सिचुएशन बाय इग्नोरिंग इट. Most people simply ignore. They do not worry about what is true and what is not. They just accept what knowledge based on certain sources, कि मैंने भाई न्यूज़ में सुना था, मैंने कहीं पढ़ा था, किसी ने मुझे बताया, एंड वी एक्सेप्ट दैट एज ट्रूइज्म. ठीक है? एंड sometimes I say that I'm an expert and therefore whatever I'm saying is true. Okay, so many people do not get into these questions. They simply assume what they know to be true because based on the fact that they have read it somewhere. All right, let's come to the question. The author says we cannot catch a glimpse of things in themselves around the corner of our own eyes. We cannot form an idea of reality that floats above the processes of our convincing it. Okay, what is the argument in the process, in the passage, in this sentence? So let's see, वहाँ ये कहाँ पे ये दिया गया था? ये यहाँ पे था. Okay, यहाँ पे इन्होंने कहा था, not if we think of knowledge as something like having a correct mental representation of reality, and not if we think of reality as something like things as they are in themselves. तो रियलिटी क्या है? जैसे हम उसको देख रहे हैं, जैसे हमारी उसकी माइंड में उसकी इमेज बन रही है, वाकई में जो वो है, independent of our perceptions, ideas, or description. For the skeptic will note, since reality under that conception of it is outside our range. फिर इसमें इन्होंने कहा वी कैन नॉट कैच ए ग्लिम्स ऑफ. देखो, उन्होंने कहा क्या रियलिटी वो है जो मेरे दिमाग में किसी चीज़ को देख के इमेज बनी, या वाकई में वो चीज़ है, भले ही लाइक आउटसाइड ऑफ माई परसेप्शन? तो ऑथर ने कहा ये हम इसलिए नहीं समझ सकते क्योंकि हम उनको चीज़ों को हम चीज़ों को आइडेंटिफाई ही देख के करते हैं, वो हमारे परसेप्ट में आती हैं, हमारे परसेप्शन में आती हैं, तभी वी कैन फिगर आउट. सो हाउ डू वी नो दैट आउटसाइड ऑफ आर परसेप्शन व्हाट दे रियली आर लाइक? ओके, so this was the argument he was making. So let's see which. Okay, if the reality of thing is independent of our eyesight, logically we cannot perceive our perception. No, we cannot perceive our perception is wrong. We cannot perceive the reality of things. Okay, so first is wrong. Our knowledge of reality floats above our subjective perception of it. No, our knowledge is limited by our perception of it. It does not float above our perception. Okay? If the reality of thing is independent of our perception, logically we cannot perceive that reality. That's the point that he was making. Okay? Our knowledge of reality cannot be merged with our process of conceiving it. Okay, this is a random. I hope you got it. What he was saying? He was saying कि हम किसी चीज़ को परसीव ही करके जान पाते हैं, तो हाउ डू वी नो इट्स रियलिटी आउटसाइड ऑफ आवर परसेप्शन? ओके, नेक्स्ट देखते हैं. द ऑथर डिस्कसेस ऑल ऑफ द फॉलोइंग आर्गुमेंट्स इन द पैसेज एक्सेप्ट. सी द आंसर टू दिस वन वुड बी another one with an extreme word. The best way to deal with skepticism. He says many people, most of the people deal with skepticism. There are a number of ways to handle this situation. The most common is to ignore it. The most common, but he never said it is the best way to ignore it. Here it says the best way to deal with skepticism about the veracity of knowledge is to ignore it. Not the best way, but the most common way. Therefore, this is the answer. According to the last pair of the passage, we hold our beliefs and presumptive knowledge more or less confidently, usually depending on something, like some source. So, उन्होंने कहा ना कि बिकॉज मैंने कहीं पढ़ा है या बिकॉज आई एम एन एक्सपर्ट, ये सारी चीज़ें में, ठीक है, या मैंने कहीं न्यूज़ में सुना है. सो वी, जो भी हमारी नॉलेज होती है, what we call knowledge is basically information that we have gathered from some source which depends on something. So the answer, which one of the following most broadly captures what we depend on? We depend on how we come to hold them, how widely they are held in our social circle, because I have heard of them. Not how much of a stake we have in them. The author never said कि मेरा उसमें कितना interest है. मेरा है कि I know it's a sanitizer because bottle में लिखा है it's sanitizer. So how, what is the source of our knowledge becomes paramount, becomes more important than knowledge itself. Okay, that's the answer. The author of the passage is most likely to support which of the following is statement. Okay, let's see. For the skeptic, if we think of reality as independent of our perception, ideas, or description, we should aim to know that reality independent too. No, we cannot know this. If it is outside of our perception, we cannot know it. That's a point. So this is not the answer. The actions taken on the basis of presumed knowledge are rational. No, they are irrational. अगर आप बस मान के चल रहे हो कि ये सही है, तो ऑथर ने कहा था ना that you pop a pill बिकॉज आपने नेट में पढ़ा कि ये पिल खाने से सर दर्द ठीक होता है, बट यू डू नॉट नो एनीथिंग अबाउट हाउ इट इज गोइंग टू केमिकली रिएक्ट एंड व्हाटएवर इट इज गोइंग टू डू इनसाइड योर बॉडी. सो बेसिकली इट्स इरेशनल बिहेवियर. ठीक है, सो सेकंड इज नॉट द व्हाट ही सेज. The scandal of philosophy is that we might know nothing at all about reality. We think reality is independent of perceptions, ideas, or description. Correct answer. The confidence with which we maintain something to be true is usually independent of the source of the alleged truth. No, it is dependent. The confidence, हम किसी चीज को कितने कॉन्फिडेंस से मानते हैं, डिपेंड करता है कि हम उसके सोर्स में कितना बिलीव कर रहे हैं. So again, this is not the answer. The correct answer is third. Right? All right, let's come to the last passage. It's been a very long session. I've been speaking for one and a half hour. So yeah, fatigue is settling in my voice as well. Okay. The next passage was talking about the relationship between truth and power. Okay. It says that people believe that truth gives you power, so you should always stick to truth. But in reality, what happens is that when you start telling truth, people start running away from you, and fiction sells better than truth, and people unite more on fiction than on truth. And for a politician, it is advisable to stick to fiction rather than truth. That was the broad layout of the passage. Let's come to the questions. It was an easy read. I'm sure you guys must have read it already. If there is something that you think requires explanation, please leave that in the comment and we'll take it up. Or you can directly come to us and we'll take care of it. Okay. The author implies that like scholars, successful leaders. तो leaders की बात कहाँ पे आई थी? Leaders की बात यहाँ पे आई थी. ठीक है? An American presidential candidate who tells the American public the truth, the whole truth, but nothing but the truth, has 100% guarantee of losing the election. So he's not going to make it. ठीक है? It's not a winning political strategy. फिर इन्होंने कहा था, scholars have known this for thousands of years, which is why scholars often had to decide whether they serve truth or social harmony. तो उन्होंने कहा था, just like a politician, even scholars know कि सच बोलने से लोग unite नहीं होंगे, people will go away. And if you need to unite them, if you need to put them together, you need to sell them fiction. You need to sell them some fictional story, be it religion, be it mythology, be it history. Create some stories and people will unite under its banner. So scholars know this and politicians know this. So the answer to this one would be successful leader know how to balance truth and social unity. ठीक है? Both types of power, there were no two types of power. ठीक है? How to create social cohesion better than in the past. Past से नहीं compare किया गया था. Use myths to attain the first type of power. No. They know how to balance truth and social unity. That is the feature common between scholars and leaders. Okay? So the answer to the 13th one is second. Regarding which one of the following quotes could we argue that the author overemphasizes the importance of fiction? देखो यहाँ पे पार्थो ऑथर ने कहा fiction is more powerful than truth. ठीक है? आपको एज एन एनालिटिकल रीडर ये बताना था कि कहीं कहाँ पे आपको लग रहा है कि अब थोड़ा ज़्यादा ओवर सेल कर रहा है. देखो आप सेकंड को देखो, विच इज़ द राइट आंसर. स्कॉलर्स ऑफन हैड टू डिसाइड वेदर दे सर्व द ट्रुथ और सोशल हार्मनी. यानी ऑथर ने आपके बिहाफ पे एक डिस्टिंक्शन ड्रॉ कर दिया कि या तो ट्रुथ हो सकता है या सोशल हार्मनी हो सकती है. शुड दे एम टू यूनाइट पीपल बाय मेकिंग श्योर एवरीवन बिलीव्स इन द सेम फिक्शन. मतलब फिक्शन होगा तभी लोग यूनाइट होंगे, ट्रुथ से लोग यूनाइट नहीं होंगे. आई थिंक दिस इज एन ओवर स्ट्रेच. कई बार लोग सच पे भी यूनाइट होते हैं. दिस इज just suiting his argument. He said that people will only unite if you sell fiction to them. Truth will never unite them. I think this was overemphasizing the importance of fiction. अब आप बाकी में देख लो, इन्होंने fiction को किसी में यूज नहीं किया था, therefore they would not be the correct answer. Truth और social harmony को अचीव करने के लिए इन्होंने कहा fiction is the only way you could achieve it. Therefore that was the answer. The author would support none of the following statements about political power except which one? Okay. The author says he support none of the following except, yani which one will he support? None of, he will support none of the following except. That means basically the passage is asking which question is asking which one will he support. So he supported people who cannot handle the unvarnished truth. So leaders, people cannot handle the unvarnished truth. So leaders retain power by deviating from it. Okay. So which one will he support? He'll say that leaders have to lie in order to gather a following. Okay. Central theme of the passage. This is the last question for today's session, and this is an important question because इसमें if you read through all the option, you'll find you will be divided between option 2 and option 4. Should you mark truth and power or attaining social cohesion in propagating objective truth? See, when you are going for central theme or summary, again the more comprehensive your answer, better it is. ठीक है? Truth and power, ठीक है? ये दो चीजें डिस्कस हुई थ्रू आउट द पैसेज, बट फोर्थ एज एन ऑप्शन इज नॉट टेलिंग यू दैट ट्रुथ is opposite to power or truth will not get you power. You have to decide between truth and power. ये वाला चीज नहीं आया इसमें कि ट्रुथ से क्या अचीव होता है, पावर से क्या अचीव होता है. Second is saying the same thing, but it is making it more comprehensive by saying choice is between attaining social cohesion or propagating objective truth. ठीक है? It is being more specific, more comprehensive than fourth, and therefore second is a better answer. Okay, this is it, guys. There were 24 questions again, and I think out of these 24 questions, if you have scored anything in excess of 14-15, that would be a very good score, and you can even get in excess of 21 in this 20 in this kind of question paper, barring a few questions and barring a few passages. The rest was very manageable, but I also realize that it is easier said than done, and ultimately you guys are the ones who are writing the exam, and only you can really tell how the exam went. Anyhow, best of luck. Okay, we'll wind up the session for today, and I'll see you with slot 3 analysis again. Okay, thank you so much for bearing with me. It's been a long session, I know. You must be tired. Take care.